Hello, my name's George Richards. I'm Head of Social Media here at SeaPigs, and this is Mick Armstrong, Head of the Herd here at SeaPigs. And today we're going to be talking about the incredible ebook that Mick has wrote for the company. How are you today, Mick?
Oh, thanks, George. I'm really well. Thanks for that nice intro.
Hello.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to your questions.
I'm excited to learn about it. So although I have had a little read about it, I don't know nearly as much as you do, and that's why I'm interviewing you and not just doing a one-off vlog, because that's boring.
Perfect.
So let's get in with the questions. Question 1. Who wrote the book?
Well, I wrote it, but I had assistance from Daniel as well, but I'm sure we'll come to that later. I wrote it through lockdown. Basically, I set myself a target to write a book, and the reason it came about was that I realised that over the last 5 years when I was researching sustainability for the drifters, and I had to find out what the problem was first, so I started writing about it, and me and Daniel started writing about it together, and after about 4 or 5 years we realised that we had hundreds of thousands of words. So we decided to streamline it and put it into a book. So it's basically just the research I carried out over the last 5 years to work out how to make a sustainable brand.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, because sustainability, as someone who works at SeaPigs, is quite important to me.
Yeah.
And especially in the modern age, there's so much misinformation. So it's really cool that you did already have the information ready to go and just bash it out.
Yeah.
So you've kind of spoken it there, but who is Daniel? Who's this Daniel you've spoken of?
So Daniel is someone who checks my English. So I didn't learn to read or write until a really shocking age, really slow in my English. But so Daniel just checks the grammar for us. But over the 5 years, Daniel sort of understands what I'm saying now. He understands by him writing and reading everything I do and checking the grammar. And also he has some ideas as well. So we've come to write together a little bit. I come up with it and then he sort of takes it from the 80% to the 100%. I'm very good at getting things started and getting it 80% there. Daniel just completes that last 20% for it.
That's cool. So like you're sort of like the assistant / copywriter, just
exactly. Yeah, I don't know what the terminology is, but we do it together. Yeah.
Who's the book actually for?
Well, I can tell you who the book's not for. It's not for people who don't care. I mean, the book's called Selfish People Do Not Read. We really wanted to, rather than say everybody come and read this book, it's not. It's for the people who care about the environment, and I care. And I've gone and researched. I had no idea before I started researching, so I haven't gone in with any previous experience, and I've gone in from a complete layman, and I've just literally researched everything, read everything, watched everything, and wrote everything down. So it's for people who actually want to understand the problem. And what I've done is I've explained what the problem is by all the research, and then I've, through the last 5 years of trying to make a sustainable product, I've then said how I've got about making our business more sustainable by the materials, all the rest of it. So it's a how-to, but it's not a how-to as in it's going to give you a step-by-step guide. It's not, because there's no silver bullet in sustainability. There's no one thing, oh, you're sustainable. It's lots of little, it's like life. It's lots of little things done well and done to the best ability if you can to make a sustainable brand. So there's a little bit of my journey in there, very little. I mean, you've read the book as well. But it's a lot about the problem and what I feel the solution is. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, but the book is my opinion.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say, like, sort of, just to summarise that, the book's sort of people who knows the environment's not great, to say the least. Not sure how we feel about language on this channel yet, so I'll not use my actual terms of how I would describe the environment at the minute.
Yes.
So it's people who know it's not great and want to do something but just don't have a clue where to begin, other than plastic straws are bad, which is sort of the general consensus. But there's a lot more to that. And also quite like that you mentioned that it's also, although it is based in fact and lots of sources and stuff mentioned, it is in your opinion as well, because no one person can possibly know that, and I love that honesty, because there's so many articles. I'm sure if I was to go on Google now and say, how can we save the environment, there'd be people saying, right, do these 10 steps, if you're not doing them, you're doing them wrong, you kill the environment yourself. So I like that you do mention this is your opinion, it's not hard and fast rules, but it's good things to abide by.
I think that the first thing is people must care.
Yes.
Because if you care and you read and you understand the problem, every time you have to buy something plastic, you realise that's going to be on the planet for, I don't know, 500, 1,000 years after me.
Yeah.
And you use these products over and over again. And when you start to understand the problem, you start reading about it, you do sort of get guilty about using these things. But it's about business being able to create sustainability without us losing all of the convenience that we've got around products now. So I believe that the only way to do that is by making the best product we possibly can. So people need to buy one rather than buying 10 or 20 different products. So buy best, buy less, buy sustainable.
So I know we kind of answered this in the last little bit, but why should someone read the book? So you've got this incredible book, why should I read this and not any of the other millions of articles that are out there?
Oh, I'm not saying you shouldn't read anything but my book, but what my book does is it takes a view from a layman, which I was 5 years ago, and I've literally gone and read everything, both sides of the argument, and what this book is my summary of it. So if you don't want to spend 5 years researching sustainability like I have, read the book. The people who have read it have more been sort of entrepreneurs, business people, and some of them have read it and said the next year they've already started to make changes in the business because they understood how easy it is to make changes if you understand the problem. So it's about understanding the problem and then having some ideas to how you can make business and society more sustainable.
Yeah, that's really cool. Because as someone who has sort of like just sort of slight tangent, who has worked in like major retail stores before, there's loads of little business things which they are doing. That's great, like I said, in cardboard and such. But then there's little things like still loads of plastic that I think they could very easily get rid of.
Yes.
So I'm sure if to say to the CEO, here's your book, have a just 10-minute read. I'm sure they'd very easily be like, oh wait, actually, little things here and there. So it's definitely good for that. For like not environmentalists, for like CEOs, company organisations, big or small. And then just in everyday man. Because I think it's fair to say like the book sort of split. The first half's more individual, or like what you as a person can do, and then sort of elaborate into wider scale.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't have kind of it, but just in a bit more depth. Why have you bought the book specifically? What initially made you want to start this big journey into getting all the information about sustainability and eventually put it into a book?
What drives this is I had a midlife crisis at 40. I'd worked in business and lots of other businesses before, and at 40 I realised how bad the environment was, and I decided that I wanted to make a brand or a business that was different, that considered the environment, considered the people they're serving, and weren't just about profit and making money. So I wanted to do business differently. So I had to understand about sustainability. Sustainability is only one part of the business, but it's the one that I knew least about, so I had to spend more time on it to understand it. So that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah, fair enough. So because I've just a bit more information about you and your background, because you do have quite a lot of experience in various positions, in various hierarchies in various industries. So I think that's quite cool. You've also got that industry of like experience of like the industry's hands and outs. Like I don't know anything about industries outside like working in a bar, working retail, working here. So like if you say, right, here's a big company of whatever, fix their environmental issues, not to recycle paper, that's about as far as my knowledge goes, but then you do have that further in-depth knowledge. So I think it's really interesting that you do have that sort of dual wing perspective of all the research from sustainability and all the life experience sort of paired together. Yeah,
I mean, I now do consult for other companies on sustainability, and it just fell about. It wasn't something that I tried to do, but when they understand, then I go and sit and I help people with sort of how to make their business more sustainable. But again, we must remember there's no silver bullet. It's lots of different things. Every industry is different because they use different materials, different production methods, different delivery methods. So there's not one size fits all, like there isn't in life really, is there?
Yes, totally right.
Yeah.
So I know you kind of touched on it before, but like when in lockdown did you actually start writing this book? Because obviously lockdown at this point has been going on for about 2 years on and off. So
well, I'd been writing the book for 3 years previous to lockdown, and over lockdown I started to assemble all the research together. So it didn't just write in lockdown, it was where I started to assemble it. And when you're writing a book, you've got to put it in the spine, you've got to work out what the chapters are, and you've got to take people through a story. So there was a lot of that. It was whittling down the sort of, I think we had 200,000 or 300,000 words, and whittling that down to sort of 30,000 words was really difficult. So it was more cutting than it was writing in lockdown. All the work I'd previously done before. So yeah, it was through lockdown, it was cutting what we already had to make it into a story.
So is there anything in lockdown in particular that sort of triggered this? Like, I know personally in lockdown, I think it was the first one. I was one of many people who started baking bread just because everyone else was, but like there wasn't many people, as far as I'm aware, writing books about sustainability in lockdown. So anything in particular about lockdown that made you want to do it?
Well, in lockdown, when lockdown happened, I decided I was going to do loads of things in life that I'd never had time to do. So I started to learn to draw. I decided I was going to write a book. I started to learn Adobe Illustrator so I could take my drawings from paper onto the computer. So it was one of the things that I decided that when I had the spare time where you couldn't do anything else, rather than just sitting in front of Netflix. However, I did sit in front of Netflix as well, as we all did.
I watched it all
but
the time.
I decided to do more creative things, and I wanted to do more creative things where in my previous life it hasn't been quite as creative, so it let me creative juices flow.
In simple terms, what is the book about?
About how to navigate sustainability, what the problem is and what my solution is to it, and trying to narrow it down into simple headings. So zero waste, circular economy, pro-social brand, trying to create these headings and explain what they are.
That's really cool. And that's one thing I just want to touch on, like, 'cause this sort of follows into my next question. Is one of my personal favourite parts about the book is right at the end, is like a glossary that's sort of very summaries, or very briefly in like 10-word max, just says what is zero waste, what is sustainability, just sort of very standard things in very easy words that anyone can understand. And I just think it's quite cool because then, like, if you're reading through it, it can very easily go over your head if you don't know any of it. So I think it's quite nice that it does that, and also a few pictures as well, because I was quite an arty person. I always love a good picture book. So what would you say your favourite part of the book?
I think one bit about the book is it's about plastic, believe it or not, and it's a metaphor that I heard, and I'll give you it. Okay. So it's imagine imagine putting a key in the door. Can we start that again?
Yeah.
I'm going to start again.
Yeah, it's fine. So just keep rolling.
Yeah,
so just go back to what's your favourite part and just edit my bit for that bit before. So so it's my favourite part's kind of the glossary. So what would you say is your favourite part of the book? So obviously there's a big thing and it's taken up years of your life. So what would you say specifically is your favourite part of the book?
There's a section on plastic pollution, which is a metaphor, which I'll give it to you now. Imagine walking through the front door of your house and hearing that ominous sound, the sound of water. You walk through the kitchen and your kitchen tap is on full. The sink is full and there's water cascading over onto the kitchen floor. What do you do first? Do you turn off the tap or do you start mopping up? I'm asking you the question, what do you do first?
First I'd call the landlord to say, please don't kill me. But after that, first thing I do, go to the tap, like it's all good drying the floor, but if the floor's still got water coming, then I'm just wasting more towels.
Yeah, so what would you do?
Turn off the tap.
Exactly. So you wouldn't start cleaning up before you turn the tap off, would you?
No.
So that's the plastic metaphor. What we need to do is slow down the production of plastic before we start cleaning up. I'm not saying that the clean up we shouldn't do, but there's no point in just putting recycle me on a plastic bottle if we're not reducing the plastic flow. So that's one of my favourite metaphors in the book.
I totally agree, because that's it kind of reminds me of an anecdote kind of thing that I read a while ago of SpongeBob, of all things. You might have heard this, you might not have, but the original creator of SpongeBob said that when he created it, he intentionally did it with like sort of subtext about pollution and things like that. That's why like all the characters live in like car parks and things like that.
I didn't know that.
And he said that as much as he loves that, and he loves that he's done this thing that has sort of subtly inspired so many people to like think more about sea pollution and such. One thing he's always lived in fear of is one day that he's going to be at the beach and just see like a SpongeBob plastic toy wash up or something like that. So that's one thing I don't know why it's just reminded me of that, and I think it's quite interesting that like so many people have had similar things but just in different ways. Like that's exactly the same sort of thing of he agrees plastic waste is bad, so we need to find a way to do it. So he's found this incredible TV show that's inspired people very subtly. But that's obviously still not the exact solution, but that's why I love the book. There's plenty of ways to do it.
Perfect.
Right. Forgot what that was. Unique selling point. That's it. So after my SpongeBob rant, what would you say is the unique selling point of this book? Because once again, going back to, there's millions of articles out there, all of which all very valid, I'm sure, with lots of different sources and different perspectives of it. But what would you say is the perspective of this book that makes it stand out to all your articles online?
So the aim going into it is, was it Einstein, I think, said, if you can make something complex, simple, then you're a genius. So my idea was to try and take sustainability and make it simpler for people to understand. And the only way I could think of doing that was, if they understand the problem, they can then understand the solution. So that's what the unique point is. It's made to be done simple so everyone can understand it.
Yeah, fair enough, straightforward. Because like I said, because so many articles out there that are great, lots of like marine biologists and such like that, which obviously they'll have very in-depth, wordy things. But personally, I'd be quite intimidated reading a book from a marine biologist, knowing that it'd probably be like 100 pages of things I haven't even heard of, and even with a glossary would still just...
Well, you've read the book. Did you understand everything that I wrote?
Yeah, I said there was a few little terminologies here and there I wasn't 100% sure, but at least in the context, I could sort of context clues it together. And if there was anything I was unsure of, there was nice little pictures, like sort of infographics. And right at the end, the glossary just to be like, oh yeah, I was right about that word.
Cool. Yeah.
So that's sort of like so I said. So I quite like the book. Obviously, you're a big fan of the book. What have other people said? Like, have anyone reviewed the book itself, like as an external peer review yet?
Yeah, I've had a few people who've read it and reviewed it, and everyone who's come back and said they loved it. They said that it wasn't stale. And you think sustainability, and in your head you think brown, green, boring. It's not. The book is bright. The images are positive. It's about positive, but there is also a dark, meaningful side to it as well. And I've forgotten the question.
What have other people said about the book? So what sort of reviews have you had from like?
I've had some people who've come back and said the next day they went and changed their business activities to try and make themselves more sustainable because they were inspired by the book. People have said that I made it simple for people to understand. Yeah. So, and used a lot of life anecdotes as well and a few stories to try and dampen the boringness of that sustainability has. And sustainability isn't boring. It's a puzzle, and I find it fascinating. Yeah,
and I do quite like as well. There's nothing going back to favourite things at the start of this bit. It was I quite like the anecdotes like sprinkled in here and there. Obviously at the start there is sort of the basis of who am I, why I'm writing the book. But I like how throughout it does also have like little ties into your personal life and personal experiences, just because otherwise then it'd just basically be a giant sheet of buzzwords and buzzwords and context, and that obviously does get feeling a bit like I'm at university again, studying textbooks that I don't really care about, but I need to study for an essay. So I do quite like that.
I like to think I'm not boring, so I didn't want to make the book boring. But it is a serious topic, so you don't expect to come out laughing and joking. It's not that, but it is light-hearted take, and it is a positive outlook on sustainability.
Yeah, it's just not all the typical doom and gloom, planets burning.
It is, but yes.
It is, it's just not, it's not every single page, world's dying, we're all dying, panic. It's not great, but here's how we can make it slightly better.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Cool. So you mentioned that it's quite a light-hearted view in it, but like, how did you get to the final product? Like, where was the initial? I know you said you've done loads of research beforehand, but what was the process from day one? What is sustainability to having the finished book? How would you roughly say that process went?
You've got to have a passion in what you're writing about for a start. That is number one. Number two is you've got to. I didn't plan to write a book, but I always had it in the back of my mind that I'd write a book. So we started writing about sustainability and building up the contents. You've got to have the contents. You've got to actually sit there and write it. And then it's about, I've tested it on people, so I've sent it out in various different forms. Then you've got to put it into a platform. So you've got to be able to turn that words. So you have to know InDesign, Photoshop. So I had to learn all of those stuff, Illustrator to make sure that it worked. And then you've got to try and promote it, like we're doing now. And the promotion is probably the hardest bit. You can write an amazing book, but if nobody reads it, what's the point? So hopefully we will get some people to read it. I do believe there's value in it, so get reading it.
Yeah.
Wrong camera, that really.
And how long did it take you to get through that? So you sort of said bullet points of like the main things you have to focus on, but like how, once again, going back to like day one, you've got all this information, you want to write a book. How long would you say it took from that day of the actual deciding to do it till it was finished?
That's a different question. I didn't do it all in one go. I didn't just sit down for 40, 50, 60 hours a week. I was doing it in like day spots. So it took, if I was to write another book and I had to do the research that I did on this book, it would probably take me a year to 2 years to write it. I did it over 5 years because I was doing other things as well. So yeah, a couple of years I would think. If you're writing a story in your head that was just fictional, but this is not, you've got to back up what you're saying with actual facts. So I haven't just made wild statements. They're all based on truth. You know what I mean? I mean, you've got to come with the truth and come with your own opinion at some point and whittle down everybody else's. But because of all the research, it takes longer. So a couple of years. In short, a couple of years.
And during the process, because you mentioned before Daniel, when did he sort of get involved in this? Obviously, I know it's your baby above all else, but how did he get involved in this?
So I did when I had my midlife crisis at 40, I went and did a master's at Newcastle Uni, and Daniel just checked my dissertation for us. So he went over and did like an editor's job, basically, script editor's job. And when I set up SeaPigs, I said, Daniel, come and help us write. So Daniel's been on board with SeaPigs from the very start. So he's still at university, so we just do a couple of hours a week, me and Daniel. So I use him to sort of make sure everything gets perfect, and I do all the donkey work behind, and he comes and puts the bells and whistles on at the end.
I quite like that. I like how it's still like you've maintained the working relationship, because I think especially in things like this, like environmentalism, it's changing constantly. Like the environment, like today we don't know what's tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen in the environment? Exactly. Like even last night I think I was reading something about a massive oil spill that's happened.
Yes.
That's something that's obviously new. It's not uncommon, unfortunately, but it's still new information and something that will affect the environment. So who knows? You could potentially look back on your book in like 2 months' time and be like, oh wait, hang on, actually, that's had a knock-on effect. That's changed this, and now we need to go back, update the information.
Yes. It's like what they say, isn't it? A map's out of date as soon as it's printed.
Yeah.
Well, I think a book's out of date as well. I mean, some of the facts that I might have used might have been updated since then, but at the time of writing, it was accurate.
Yeah, that's good. Right, so let's see. And how long would you say it roughly takes to actually read the books? It's all good saying like you've got this book, but like say I'm just some random person, I've just seen this video and I thought, oh, this actually sounds quite interesting. How long would you say it needs to allot to just sit and read from start to finish?
So I think the quickest somebody read it was just under 3 hours. Most people, I would say it would take 4 hours, but I've had people who've read it twice in a day. As soon as they've read it a second time. So it is something that you could read twice in a day quite easily.
That's cool. That's one thing that I know personally puts something that puts me off reading a lot of books, just in general, is the idea of, right, I've got this big thing that's like 200 pages if it's like a fiction book or whatever. Yeah. I've got a lot, like the next 2 weeks of my life to read this, not watching anything else. And it's what, about 80, 90 pages give or take?
Yeah, 4 hours I think is about, for an average reader, 4 hours.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, so it's not a super long book, and it's got some pictures. If you took the pictures out and just had the text, it'd probably be what, 50, if that. Yeah. So it's not super long, but it does have all the important information.
You do have to invest some time.
Yeah.
You got to invest. It's not.
It's not a 5 minute skim read either.
You can't summarize something so in depth in a 30-second video, which most of the younger generation want. So you have to want to invest that 4 hours into the book, but you will come out of it with 5 years worth of research for that 4 hour investment. So to me, I wish somebody else had written that book. It would have saved me a lot of hassle.
Yeah, but like even that, like, because it's quite broken up quite nicely into like different sections, as most books tend to do. But also like there's quite a few like not hard cuts between sections, but like sections where it's like, right, I've read up to here, I've got to go make dinner, I've got to go meet a friend, something like that. So it's like, right, I've just remembered I've gotten up to chapter 10. I'm just going to remember that, make a note of it, and then come back tomorrow, later this afternoon, next week, whenever. And just come back, clear mind, and you can just go, continue through, look at pretty pictures, and get a nice, just feel more informed, more educated by the end of it.
Yeah, definitely.
So just before we wrap up, I just want to ask a few last little questions just about some of the key terms in the glossary that stood out to me personally, and just sort of get a bit more information about them. So the first one is enough for all forever.
Well, I think it's self-explanatory. We've got to create a system on our planet that we can create enough resources, enough water, so that everybody can live comfortably.
That's pretty cool. What about zero waste?
Zero waste is a dream that when we create products with services, there's no waste left. Now, to be able to do that, you've got to consider everything that we make via sustainable by design. So to create zero waste means changing business models. At the moment, we have a linear economy. We take something from the planet, we make it into something, and we throw it away in the landfill or burn it. Dreadful. Circular economy, what they do is they take resources, they make it into a product, they track that product, they take it back at the end of its life, they make it into a new product, and the cycle goes on again. So what you do is you're limiting the amount of resources. That's the circular economy, and the aim of the circular economy is to create zero waste.
Perfect. And that actually ties in perfectly to my next question, which would have been about circular economy. So
I'll answer that question. So it's about closing the loop. So if you imagine we take something from the earth, we make it into something, we throw it away. So there's waste. Then you've got the recycling economy. You take something from the planet, you make it into something, you then throw it away, and then somebody else recycles it into something else, then they throw it away. Circular economy is take it from the planet, they make it into something, they track it, they take it back, make it into a new product. So it's continual. Like we say of the planet, carbon cycle, the water cycle. Regenerative economy is about using the earth so that we can use things over and over again.
And final thing, which I'm personally quite excited to hear more about as a member of SeaPigs, but what is a pro-social brand?
So a pro-social brand is trying to go away from the current big business model is profit, shareholders, profit.
Capitalism, all that.
Yes. Now, I believe that businesses should make a profit, but they shouldn't make it at the expense of the planet, and they shouldn't give it to the customer when it's not as good as it should be. So I believe there's 3 bottom lines in a business. Give the customers exactly what they want, the best product you can. Yeah. Give it to them so that there's no impact on the planet, and make a profit for the business. Everybody's winning.
Yeah, and I personally just sort of like on a more hippie type personal approach, as I quite like how you mentioned like the profit is the last thing. So like, as great as it is, like obviously companies need to make profit. Like if you're not making a profit, you're not going to pay rent.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, but I do like that you put the other 2 as like a priority when listing them there, because at the end of the day, if I was to go out, make a company and make millions doing whatever the business is, that's great. At the end of my life, whoever's left standing has to then deal with any pollution I've caused during that lifetime.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, getting a bit sort of philosophical, I guess.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, money's worthless.
It is.
When I'm dead, I'm going to be stuck in the ground. Doesn't matter if I've got £10, 10 million in the bank. Doesn't make a difference. What does make a difference is any plastic pollution, that's still going to be here no matter what.
Yeah.
So
it's sort of a mindset change. So in my previous to me midlife crisis, it was all about profit. How do I make profit? How do I make profit? How do I make money? How do I make profit? Whereas this now is all I'm saying is I still want to make profit. I still want to make money. But I've got these 2 things that I need to consider before profit.
yeah.
So it's a mindset is I need to look at the environment and we need to make the best product. It's not just about making profit. If we can do these 2 things and make profit, that is a different way to do business. And my dream's always been to find a different way to do business.
So that pretty much brings us to the end of this sort of like little interview about the book. So just sort of the one question I'm sure is burning in the mind of everyone who's made it this far in the video.
I hope so.
Where is it available to read?
On the website, seapigs.co.uk, top of that page, ebook.
And will that be linked in the description as well?
What, sorry?
Will it be linked in the description?
Yes.
That's great. And is there any way to get a physical version, or is it just digital?
No, we wanted to go digital. We didn't want to print it in paper. I mean, in this world of digital, we didn't want to create any more waste than we needed to. So it's all online, easy to read, either on a G Drive or a PDF or Adobe Online. It's all on the website.
Yeah, so anywhere digital. If you've got a phone, laptop, if you're watching this, we know you've got access to the resources.
Yes.
And it's free to read, I believe.
Of course, yeah.
Yep, so it's totally free to read, so you've got no excuse not to read it. It's right there, link right below.
And tell us what you think as well. That would be really nice.
Yes, so in the comments, if you want to send us an email, just message us on any of our social media. So that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Send smoke signals if you, I mean, maybe not smoke signals, because not great for the environment, but any way that you can send us a message, by all means, send it to us, review, good, bad, ugly, we want to know. And I think that just about wraps up today.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, George.
No worries, thank you. It's been a wonderful interview.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.